fight against Carl the Truth Williams. Morrison's people wanted the 3 knockdown rule to be waived, but no dice. Now up to ring announcer Michael Buffer.
Secret recipe at Kentucky Fried Chicken present 12 rounds of boxing for the World Boxing Organization Heavyweight Championship of the World. This bout is sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Dr. Elias Ghanem, Commissioners Nat Carasali, Bruce Lane, Luther Mack, and Dr. James Nave, Chief Inspector Mark Ratner, WBO President, former light heavyweight champion Jose Torres, WBO Supervisor ringside Alberto Aleman. Physicians in attendance, lead physician Dr. Flip Homansky, Dr. James Wishgame, and Dr. Robert Boy. The timekeepers are James Cavan and Mike Lasella. The scoring for this bout would be done on a 10-point must system, and the 3 judges assigned at ringside are Patricia Jarman, Jerry Roth, and Dalby Shirley. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action, referee Mills Lane. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of the Las Vegas Hilton, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trunks with stars and bars, weighing in at 226 pounds, this knockout artist has a professional record of 36 victories with 32 KOs against only 1 defeat. He comes here tonight from Kansas City. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the world, Tommy the Duke Morrison. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the white trunks and weighing in at 256 pounds. We have the 1968 Olympic gold medalist, who now as a professional is 72-3 with 67 KOs, which is the greatest knockout ratio in heavyweight history. Ladies and gentlemen, from Houston, Texas, presenting the former heavyweight champion of the world, here's
gentlemen, Angelo, and if he goes right here, I'm not going to call it low. Right here is going to be all right. Now, you've only had your instructions 1 time. This is for the championship of the world. I expect a tough, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions here? Any questions here? Let's get it on.
Tommy Morrison is built like a sheer granite cliff. The main question here is whether there is glass or granite on top of the mountain.
And just as Morrison had his own official controversy, wanting the 3 knockdown rule to be wiped out for this bout, Foreman complained about referee Mills Lane, believing that he would have preferred another man to be the 3rd man in the ring. But the Nevada State Athletic Commission stuck to its guns and its favorite referee, Lane, for the bout. Tommy Morrison has said, Riddick Bowe, that he will be too busy for George. He has a habit of starting slowly. Here he tries to use the jab to get active early.
You see Tommy's doing something different already, and George's hands are extremely high. Tommy's backing up in this fight. We've never seen him do that before. So perhaps he knows something that we don't.
Do you think there's any chance that Morrison can be effective backing up?
Not as effective as he is coming forward.
Most of the early action begins with Morrison. Foreman is expected to try to land the jab and dictate the pace of the bout with that punch. Morrison trying to hook to the body. He says that he doesn't believe George Foreman can take punches to the body well, but few fighters have tried to go to George's body because you run the risk of bringing your hands down and leaving your head exposed.
George needs to cut the ring off instead of following Tommy around.
hand over the top by Morrison is the first heavy blow of the bout.
George is going to Tommy, but he's not really throwing punches.
Tommy Morrison's big weapon is the left hook, maybe the best in the heavyweight division. George Foreman, conqueror twice of Joe Frazier, said to us, left hookers don't bother me. So far, Morrison has tried to use the jab much more liberally than is normally the case for him. And Foreman not yet untracked, seemingly, Riddick.
Not at all. George is walking to Tommy, but I think he should be throwing more punches at this point.
Tommy Morrison beating Foreman to the punch in these early exchanges. George Foreman not yet started with the jab. Right hand to the body by Morrison. Seemed to sting Foreman, but George keeps coming forward. Right to the body by Morrison. Morrison continuing to beat Foreman to the punch, Riddick.
George has got something up his sleeves. What at this point we don't know.
Left hook by Morrison. There's the first thunderbolt, and the right lands behind it. Round one is a good one for Tommy Morrison.
Tommy Morrison has a game plan, which is unusual for him. We'll see if he can stick to it.
The jab start working pretty. Guys looking to sucker you, just keep your hands up. That's all it's all about, really. Nothing there. Give me the bench ring. Everything pretty. Everything pretty. I see it.
We're going to set up that hook. 7-7-2s to body, 7-7-2-1s.
Relax, baby. Go good.
Any combinations, go to the body first, come up to the head. Bring his hands down. Doing a nice job. Real nice job. Good and relaxed. Good and relaxed. Keep that seven coming back high. When you feel yourself in the corner, get out of it.
Tommy Morrison fights by the numbers, something introduced to boxing by Customato, who of course was Mike Tyson's mentor. He wants Morrison to keep going to the body and then come up to the top.
Punch stack numbers indicated that in the first round, Tommy Morrison threw 4 times as many punches as George Foreman, and Morrison starts the action early in round 2. Now Foreman unleashes the jab, and George looks just a little lighter on his feet, more willing to try to get a rhythm going.
I think George should use the jab a bit more. He might frustrate Tommy with it and open Tommy up for something.
Left hook by Morrison landed on Foreman's face. George has used the jab a couple times early in this round. It is still Morrison who is busier and who seems to be beating George to the punch. Now Morrison makes Foreman back up with the left hook and throws a right hand to the body.
I would like to see George give Tommy Morrison a little more feints and see how he reacts to him.
There's a blunt left inside by Foreman. He misses with a sweeping right. Lands the jab.
Beautiful.
Right hand by Morrison was solid. He lands a left hook inside. Foreman does not show hurt. Tommy Morrison boxing more effectively so far than most might have expected him to do.
This is the in and out formula that Alex Stewart used so effectively in his fight with George. Riddick.
Perhaps it might work for Tommy at this point. But let's see what happens if Tommy is able to last a couple of rounds.
And you saw again the quickness with which Morrison unleashes the left hook. Right hand over the top. George Foreman with the right hand up, very left hook conscious, was open to that right hand.
I'm really surprised George isn't throwing more punches at this point.
Maybe George is surprised by how busy Morrison has been. Now there's a left hand by Foreman, and remember, when you watch Big George, he tends to make opponents woozy sometimes with what appear to be glancing blows. He has exceptionally heavy hands.
Let's see what happens when George is able to land a couple of more of them jabs.
Jab landed for Foreman. Morrison comes back with 2 right hands.
Every time George hits him with a jab, he backs Tommy up.
Morrison, left jab, left hook. Both were glancing blows. Foreman lands the jab again, and again Morrison backs up just as you said he would, Riddick. Right hand lands for Foreman. Morrison momentarily stunned. Closing seconds of round 2. That was the most effective blow so far for Foreman, and Morrison answers with a left hook and a right hand and another left hook.
Fine.
Trying to get around.
Okay. Deep breath. Spit bucket. Good, George.
Use your 7 a little more. Puff the baby up. Yeah. You waited in the corner and you let him get off first.
Morrison has an edge in youth and quickness and energy, and he's trying to impose that edge here early in the fight. And here comes a combination, and I think that one stunned George just momentarily. And at the end, George comes in with a pushing but hard right hand. He's a very hard puncher, George is. I should say a very heavy puncher.
Double entente, huh? He's heavy and he can punch. Tommy Morrison was breathing very heavily between rounds 2 and 3. Remember that he has had a stamina problem in the past. In his loss to Ray Mercer, Morrison dominated the early rounds, then very visibly and obviously ran out of gas and was pummeled mercilessly by Mercer.
I would like to see if Tommy can maintain his pace for quite some time.
Well, if he can do that, Riddick, he's going to cause problems for George, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think George is waiting for Tommy to run out of gas.
The book on Morrison would be that exactly that would happen. Morrison landed a hard left hand to the body inside in that last exchange. Now tries the left hook again. A lot more jabs than Morrison threw in his last fight here on HBO against Carl the Truth Williams. Foreman lands a couple of lefts and follows with a right. And Morrison comes back with a left hook. Morrison ducking the right hand, just got away.
George is also using his weight now. He's pushing Tommy back, making Tommy use his legs, and eventually perhaps Tommy might tire.
Jim, I thought that right hand that George threw landed flush. If it did, that's the good news for Tommy Morrison.
I agree with you, Larry. I think it was the kind of blow with which Foreman has damaged other fighters over the years, and Morrison seemed to take it pretty well. But now the jab lands twice in the teeth of Tommy Morrison, and George is beginning to get untracked with the jab, Riddick.
Let's see what happens when Tommy has to take these jabs, these right hands, and gets winded.
The left hand landed inside for Foreman. Morrison was wild with the answering left hook. Now a left and a right for Morrison. Straight left hand for Morrison. He's been able to get to Foreman just as Alex Stewart did in this same ring in April of '92. Both fighters landing the jab. George Foreman's jab has been compared to being hit in the mouth by a telephone pole as you pass in front of a window. Clubbing left hand by Foreman, tries to follow with a right and a left. Both missed. Morrison lands the left hook. There is a mouse under the left eye of Tommy Morrison. No doubt the product of a Foreman right hand.
I think down the Foreman pressure is starting to show on Tommy.
Tommy sticks the jab effectively. And again, and again, and again. 4 straight jabs for Morrison. Closing seconds of round 3 now. And there's a little bit of a mouse under the right eye of Foreman as well. So watch the left eye of Tommy Morrison, the right eye of George Foreman as round 3 comes to a close.
Keep it slow, looking good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, that's the round you took off. Relax, relax, calm down. All right? Your recovery is good. Your recovery is good. The more you relax, the better off you are. Okay? We need more punches. I need more 7s, okay? That's what's going to keep him off of you. Fakes and flints when he gets close, and you don't want to throw.
Here's Morrison using his body shots exactly how he planned. He's fighting a very good tactical fight, but he caught a solid right hand from George Foreman, and once again, the good news is he's still standing. George trying to bully him, trying to impose his strength, trying to impose his will, trying to impose his image as George Foreman.
Punch stat numbers say that in round 3, George Foreman landed 23 of 35 punches. That's a 66% connect rate. Remember that he's using mostly the jab. Morrison tries to start the action as round 4 begins. We are evolving toward a slugfest as Tommy Morrison again lands the left flush on George Foreman's face. Foreman throws the jab. Morrison answers with a left of his own. It'll be a real test for Tommy to see if he can maintain his will and his stamina in the face of Foreman's thudding jab.
Also his battle plan, Jim.
Right hand by Morrison knocks Foreman's head back a little bit. They trade punches in the middle of the ring. Tommy seems able to take George's stuff for the moment, Riddick.
Yeah, I think now we're going to fight. We get into a good fight now. But how long can Tommy take it? So far, I'm very impressed. Tommy puts his punches together very well.
Morrison again landing flush on Foreman's face. He seems for the moment to have forgotten to go to the body, which was part of the plan, but he's landing effectively to the head. Foreman with the jab. Morrison answers with a right. Foreman pawing with the jab that time. Low blow for Foreman. He got away with it as Mills Lane was directly behind him. Morrison's left hook partially blocked. Tommy keeps walking to his right, trying to keep George from setting up to throw the jab. But Foreman is getting increasingly quick with his bread and butter punch. Both fighters getting a little bit of a breather right now. It's been a pretty intense pace in the early going, particularly when you consider Morrison's stamina problems and Foreman's age. Left to the body by Morrison, right hand upstairs landed. Foreman still landing consistently, and there's the right hand over the top. Morrison swinging wildly with the right. Most of the heavier blows have come from Tommy Morrison. Right hand lead by Morrison. Foreman clubbing with the right hand to the top of the head. Tommy lands a right and a left in return. A slugfest, Riddick. And George just keeps pressing forward.
Yes, indeed.
I got it. I'll get the iron.
Don't talk loud, please.
No, I won't say nothing. I'm with you. I'm here. I'm here nice and quiet, baby. Anything you want.
On our jabs to throw our combinations. We got to have head movement before and after the jab. Before and after. He's starting to creep up on you in the corner. You got to make him.
Okay, Harold Letterman, give us your scorecard.
Larry, 39-37, 3 rounds to 1, Tommy Morrison. Now, I want to tell you something. I'm always talking about ring generalship. Watch Tommy Morrison move in, get his shots off, move out. Beautiful ring generalship. Moves to the right, which is an unnatural move for him, and he's using that really good double jab. Doubling up on a jab just like Riddick Bowe does.
I have the fight scored 2 rounds apiece.
Round 5 begins. Punch stat numbers with an interesting stat. Tommy Morrison, who couldn't seem to remember to throw the jab against Carl the Truth Williams, has thrown 118 of them already against George Foreman, landing at a 28% rate. Morrison with a thudding left hook. Foreman comes back with the left. Right hand by Morrison, and the good news for Morrison early, Riddick, is that he's taken George's stuff. George has weathered the left hook a couple of times.
I'm pretty impressed with Tommy. He's been throwing a variety of different punches. I've never seen him use a lead right hand, but he's been doing that pretty well. And you got to take your hat off to George. George's in there with a young man who's extremely strong, and he's taking his best shots.
Morrison has been quoted in the last couple of days saying that he didn't think George Foreman took a punch all that well. Sage ring observers said he's whistling in the dark. Most people believe George takes a punch extremely well.
I would have to say, so far he's taking Tommy's best hook.
And you heard Foreman saying to Angelo Dundee between rounds, don't say a word, don't tell me anything. The two of them play an interesting game of psychological cat and mouse with one another as the fight progresses. Right hand by Morrison. And again, Foreman takes it well. George comes back with the jab and chases Tommy as Tommy does a pirouette against the ropes. A feeling that George Foreman is extremely pleased with the way things are going, Riddick.
I think at this time the tide is about to turn. I see Tommy being winded, and he's loading up with everything at this point.
Tommy seems to be getting a little anxious and trying for nothing but power punches.
And George is still calm, cool, and collected.
Left hook lands for Morrison. George keeps walking forward.
Tommy's doing something extremely well. He's throwing the hook and moving. And George has to regroup and set up all over again.
It's going to take tremendous conditioning, though, for Morrison to continue to move for 12 rounds like this. He's never fought past the 9th round. Foreman patiently stalking. Morrison using the foot movement to stay away from the jab. Looping right hand over the top for Morrison, didn't do anything. Foreman got one into the body, and now Morrison tries one to the body and lands a left hook right at the bell.
Okay, very good.
They put it in mind.
But we need combinations, punches and bunches. Lead with speed, follow with power. Lead with speed, follow with power.
You'll see the left hook to work here. That's the money punch for Tommy Morrison. A punch that could put him into the very big money. There you see George chasing a pirouetting Morrison. He's like a linebacker going after a ballet dancer.
Seems like to me George jab is so strong it made him turn around.
Punched at numbers through round number 5. You can see how much busier Morrison has been, how much more accurate Foreman has been. Interesting fight to try to score. Foreman landing at a 63% rate. That's not tremendously surprising because George is an accurate puncher and Tommy doesn't defend himself all that well. Round 6, Morrison with his mouth open, snorting through the nose, maybe beginning to lose his wind just a little bit. Foreman relaxed as always. Now Mills Lane is going to talk to George Foreman about the low blow. First warning, Morrison jumps in with a left hook. And Foreman goes right back to the body. We pointed out to you earlier, swelling under the right eye of Foreman and under the left eye of Morrison. Neither has turned into a dangerous situation for either fighter yet.
Tommy's using a lot of movement. I'm very impressed with that.
Got partial contact with the left hook. Well, he was determined to go side to side to make it tough for George, Riddick, and he's managed to do that so far.
Yes, indeed. But I think George in the later rounds should catch up with Tommy.
Why are you saying that?
Well, I think that's in George's game plan. He wants Tommy to get winded, and then he's going to apply the pressure. George isn't throwing a lot of punches. I say at this point he's preserving himself.
George looks extremely relaxed. Is that what gives you the confidence that he will still be at his best in the late rounds?
I would like to think so.
Left hook lands for Morrison. Of course, the danger for Foreman is that by allowing Tommy to be busier, he runs the risk of falling behind on points. Few people thought that this fight could go to a decision. Again, they trade punches. And again, it is Morrison who beats Foreman to the punch until George goes back to the jab and lands 3 of them in a row. Morrison goes back to foot movement to try to stay away from the jab. As soon as he stands still like that, he must punch or else fall victim to the Foreman jab.
George gave Tommy a feint, and see how he reacted, but George waited too long to fire off of it.
One thing George likes to do, Riddick, is to reach out and simply push Tommy on the shoulders to try to knock him off balance. Now Foreman lands 2 right hands, and Morrison is a little bit more open than before.
Yeah, Tommy needs to close his mouth because he'll get hit and get his jaw broken again.
Sweeping left hook landed for Morrison. Short right hand inside by Foreman. Morrison comes back with a left.
Better than halfway through. Better than halfway through. You're catching your second wind now. Right now, we're going to catch our second wind. Relax. Catch your second wind. All right?
That's what it's doing. That's what it's doing. Just with right hand.
Close your mouth.
Being with right hand hook behind it. 2, 3 punches. Stop him from coming back with another.
The jab is everything, son. Everything.
On the water.
Set him up with.
There's George throwing a left and a right. Morrison survives it and moves on. A good sign for Morrison even as he catches the punch.
As he has throughout the comeback that began in 1987, George Foreman stands in the corner between rounds. More than halfway through now as round 7 begins.
What's the heads in there, guys?
Veteran observers of Tommy Morrison wait at this point for him to lose steam and fall off the precipice. That's been the frequent problem. Morrison landing a right and a left, and the right uppercut, and Foreman momentarily off balance. Another right hand. Now Foreman lands a left and a right. They are matching power for power. Morrison may have been stunned just a little bit by a Foreman right hand. Tommy goes back to the jab. But the foot movement begins to disappear. Now Morrison remembers to try to walk away from the jab. Remember that when he stands still, he is an all too available target for George Foreman's heavy punches. Riddick, what do you think?
I think Tommy is proven to take a punch better than a lot of people anticipated. And George takes a better left hook than a lot of people anticipated.
And if they go the distance?
At this point, I think Tommy's ahead.
I think you're probably right. He's been the more active fighter. But of course, judges may have a soft spot for Foreman after 25 years of scoring his fights. They trade left hooks 1 for 1, and Foreman comes back with a second one of his own. Morrison back to the jab and the foot movement. Riddick?
I think at this point, George is the fresh of the two, believe it or not.
He got himself into amazing shape. We all looked at the weigh-in the other day and said, wow, that's not the way we would have thought George might look. Foreman relentlessly stalking. Closing seconds of round 7. It has been a very busy round for both fighters. Morrison lands an uppercut on the point of Foreman's chin. George continues to come forward. Throws the jab. Left hook to the body by Morrison. Left to the jaw by Foreman. Tommy's got to be wondering, when do I begin to back him up with all this heavy punching?
George doesn't know how to back up.
Okay, Tommy.
Here we go.
Nice, buddy.
Looking good, baby.
Hey.
Keep him slow. It's your fight. You're in control.
You're in good control. I want you to take 30 seconds. All right, give yourself 30 of movement. I have to have more 7. You let him come in there all day long just now without throwing your 7.
His eyes are throwing shut.
I need your hands up. I need your position a little bit better, and need more combination.
There's a good, clean, hard right by Morrison. George weathers it. Doesn't let him get another punch in. And here's that segment of that round when the two of them were landing bombs like howitzers at each other.
Morrison may have felt that he had been thumbed in the eye there momentarily, but it doesn't seem to bother him as round 8 begins.
I don't think so. I think some of the grease off of George's body got on his face. He wanted to move the grease out of his eye.
Does that sting your eye when that happens, Riddick?
No, not really.
There you can see the numbers on how many times these two fighters have been past
All right, George,
the
get him
8th
up. Come on,
round.
let's go. Come on.
They are in the 8th this time. Tommy Morrison has never been past 9 rounds. Plenty of time for Foreman, you suspect, even if he is behind on points. 5 more rounds to go in a fight in which the tide seems inexorably to be turning in Big George's favor. Left hook by Morrison, and again Foreman takes it well. Straight jab by Foreman backs Morrison up. Low blow again by Foreman, and this time Morrison's hurt. Mills Lane sends Foreman to his corner. Now will he take a point away? He's got to get him to go to a neutral corner. Now will Mills take a point away?
Time. Okay, you get 5 minutes. You can have this duel.
All right, Harold Letterman, give us the rules.
Jim, the rule in the World Boxing Organization is that Tommy Morrison can take as much as 5 minutes. He must continue. If he doesn't continue after 5 minutes, he loses by abandonment. So he's got 5 minutes to rest up from the low blow.
Is there a mandatory deduction of a point?
It's entirely up to the referee whether he wants to deduct the point or not. I haven't seen Mills Lane make any indication that he wants to deduct the point so far.
This is the second time that Foreman has been officially warned for a low blow by Mills Lane. Are you surprised that no point has been deducted, Harold?
Well, as I say, it's the referee's call.
And they get back to the action in round 8. Tommy Morrison used about a minute of the 5 which had been allotted to him.
Jim, I don't think that low blow is really intentional. George tried to grab him after it happened. So I don't think George is a dirty fighter.
So that would be the reason why Lane didn't deduct a point, because it was accidental?
Yes, I think he realizes that it wasn't intentional.
When Riddick Bowe, the man seated next to us, defeated Pierre Kutzer to earn his shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, George Foreman said on our airwaves that Mills Lane had allowed Bowe to get away with too many low blows against Kutzer. That was one of the reasons why George felt uncomfortable with Lane as the referee here. Now, ironically, it appears that Lane allows Foreman to get away with low blows without deducting a point.
And also, a lot of shots George threw earlier, they wasn't actually low, they was on the borderline.
Left hook lands for Morrison. Foreman throwing the right hand over the top. Comes back to the jab. Aside from the swelling around his right eye, George shows no ill effects from all the heavy punches he's taken from Tommy. £226 Tommy Morrison, 256-pound George Foreman. Ten seconds to go in round 8. And we make the point one more time as Morrison comes out for the ninth. He'll be coming toward the round which represents as far as he's ever gone in a professional prize fight.
You're going to have to steal each round now, okay? At the end, you're going to steal it with combinations. Now look, he's slow.
Harold Letterman, how do you see it through the first 2/3 of this fight?
Larry, 78-74, 6 rounds to 2, Tommy Morrison. I think he's winning this fight on speed and movement. As I say, real nice ring generalship. Circling in both directions, moving in, getting the shots off, doubling up on a left jab. But you're just outspeeding George Foreman to win this fight. I really think he's landed too many good shots, and George is not hitting him hard enough nor often enough. I think Tommy Morrison has got a chance to become a bigger hero in Kansas City than Joe Montana.
All right, I have the score 5 rounds to 3, and I'm not quite as excited as you are, Harold.
Riddick, do you still have a sense that Morrison is ahead on points?
Yeah, I think Morrison's still ahead, but George has a chance.
Round 9 begins. Tommy Morrison has been doggedly devoted in trying to stick with the jab. He's thrown 195 of them in the first 8 rounds of the fight. This from the Morrison who barely knew how to throw a jab against Carl the Truth Williams in January here on HBO. Morrison misses with the left hook, but seems to have a little bit of a second wind. Lands a right hand. Foreman comes back with the right underneath. Tommy comes over the top with the left. Another left hook. And Morrison's off to a good start in round 9. Body shot by Morrison. He walks away. I think if he can keep up the foot movement, he's got a good chance to win the fight. If he stands still, he's going to get himself in trouble.
You can say that again.
Your hands are in there, guys. Punch out. Your hands are free.
That uppercut was a glancing blow despite the reaction from the crowd. Must make you proud when you see fighters throw that uppercut inside. Riddick, you are repopularizing the punch.
That's what we're trying to say. They're copying.
Chanting George, George, George. And now there's an answering chant of Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. Right hand landed for Morrison. The left hook caught a piece of Foreman's chin. Because he has gotten back up on his toes and moved well, the 9th round has been a good one for Tommy Morrison.
I agree with you. I think as long as Tommy keeps on moving, he has a big chance of winning.
Now he shows some head movement as well, something which was supposed to be a part of the plan. It's often difficult for fighters to remember to do it, but Foreman can't find the target, and the crowd cheers Morrison for his defensive prowess. Right hand as they break, and Morrison got it in, and Mills Lane says, don't hit on the break.
Morrison told us in an interview the other day that when someone moves his head, George doesn't punch, and that's what he's trying to do, to keep George off him by moving his head.
And Morrison closes out round 9 with a solid jab. It looked to be another Tommy Morrison round as the hole maybe gets just a little deeper for Big George.
No, nothing. No. I got it. Don't worry. You'll have everything. Hey, hold that. Everything's fine. As long as you're jabbing, you keep your hands up. Beautiful.
Yeah, that man keep him up there. Hit him with left hook, right hand. 1, 2, 3. Just spinning.
Don't worry about the body shot. Champ, Let him go.
Him in the face. Throw at the gloves. Get him out of there. Don't let him creep in on you. Okay? Everything ahead. Sevens, move away, set up. Set up quicker. Set up quicker. Make him taller.
All right, watch him punch off of the clinch. Get a warning from the referee, Mills Lane. That's not nice, he said.
But he knew doggone good and well that since Lane didn't deduct a point from Foreman for low blows, he could get away with hitting on the break at least once.
Either George Foreman doesn't punch as hard as we thought, or Tommy Morrison has finally got himself into the kind of condition that he can handle those punches.
And in round 9, Foreman slowed down, throwing only 30 punches, Riddick.
I don't think George's corner's giving him the right, advice. They feel as though George is winning the fight, and I don't think so.
I agree with you. I couldn't believe the absence of urgency in Foreman's corner. At some point, they have to tell him to get his motor going and look for a knockout, it would seem to me.
I think if George doesn't win the next 3 rounds, he loses this fight. He loses.
Well, he's in good shape in this round as he lands a left-right combination to try to set Morrison up for some more damage. Tommy still moving the feet, though, and managing to get away from a lot of George's heavy stuff. Left jab lands right in Morrison's mouth. Morrison comes back with a right over the top. George a little slow with the right. Tommy was able to duck the punch.
Riddick, like you, Morrison's been given an opportunity to answer the questions about him in this fight, and so far he's answered them well.
Yes, indeed. Just then, George didn't hit Tommy low, and they stopped.
Yeah, it was a legitimate body punch, and Lane seemed to think it was another low blow. But then he motions Morrison to come back in, and now they trade punches once again. Tommy beginning to wear down a little bit in the first round 10 of his entire career. Right hand by Morrison temporarily stops the Foreman steamroller. George comes forward again. Clubbing punch by Foreman, left-right combination by Morrison. And now Tommy effectively ducking again and lands a right hand.
Tommy, I can't say it enough. Tommy's doing something extremely well. He's getting his shots off and walking away.
This is the best performance of Tommy Morrison's career against a quality fighter, win or lose.
Yes, you are correct.
I love you when you say that, Riddick. You have a job forever. Foreman lands a left hand and another left, and Morrison is temporarily woozy. Now Tommy comes back with a right of his own. Morrison having trouble breathing. Less than 30 seconds to go in the round. Dundee screaming at Foreman to double up on his combinations. Mills Lane once again stopping the action, and Morrison steps in with an assertive right. Foreman's corner up in arms because Lane has now finally deducted a point. Deducted a point for low blows.
I don't know why he took that point away.
I had given that round to Foreman, and that means it's a 9-9 round on my scorecard anyway.
But it ain't going to help him none.
After giving the third warning for unintentional, that's unintentional low blows, deducted 1 point.
Mouthpiece.
On the red corner for Forrest Foreman.
A lot of sevens, a lot of punches and bunches. Feeding to the combinations, hands up.
Let's take a look and see if we have this low blow here. Well, it's a borderline blow about down around Laredo. It's really not that bad of a punch, is it?
It wasn't, and Tommy didn't give any reaction that it was low.
And there's the deduction of the point as Lane turns to Foreman and says, I got to take one away from you.
George even looked puzzled.
And you heard the crowd respond as ring announcer Michael Buffer announced between rounds that a point had been deducted from Foreman. So now, despite a good round for Foreman in the 10th, he appears to be in jeopardy on the scorecards if the fight is being scored the way we might surmise that it is. 2 rounds to go for Tommy Morrison. He is into totally uncharted territory. The 11th and 12th rounds, the championship rounds, a new experience for Tommy the Duke Morrison.
I think George should apply the pressure more so at this point.
Well, you have to suspect, Riddick, that he's giving it everything he's got. He's 44 years old. He's no rapid mover in there. Relentlessness is his game, and he has had that tonight.
Yeah, but I think George is also giving a good account of himself, even though he's 44.
Oh, I think he's done about as well as you might have expected. It's just been very good Tommy Morrison up to this point. Morrison has taken himself up to another level in terms of commitment, in terms of will, in terms of boxing technique, in terms of ability to manage himself through a long fight. Something you did when you came in here and beat Evander Holyfield last November, Riddick.
I think Tommy is very fortunate at this point. I don't think George is as strong as he once was.
Yes, but of course, when George was heavyweight champion, Tommy was 5 years old. Left hook for Morrison, and he moves across the ring to get away. An increasingly elusive target for Foreman. Morrison all but running away from George Foreman now, and the crowd boos for the first time. They trade jabs, and Morrison's head snaps back. George still has that power. Good combination by Morrison. And no chance for Foreman to retaliate as Tommy runs away.
Very good. Last round, there ain't no more.
Keep your hands.
Ain't no more.
Keep your hands up.
Keep your hands up.
He's this boy. He's about ready to quit any time, but he's getting room. So keep your hands up and get close to us.
A lot of combinations, okay? I need you. He's going to come at you here now, okay? Everything you coming forward on, okay? 7-7 combinations. Get on the inside. Be tight. Be tight on the inside. Look for you.
They doing that. Just don't blow your nose. Last round now, champ. Ain't no more. Don't let him turn his back on you.
Punch. You understand what I'm saying? Steal the last 30 seconds. That's right. They telling him he's got knocked out. Let's go. How do you choose?
And final round. How about a round of applause?
Tommy Morrison comes out.
Harold, quickly, how do you have the fight?
Larry, 107, 101, 8-2, one even, a commanding 6-point lead for Tommy the Duke Morrison.
I have it 7-3-1. It means that George Foreman needs a knockout. This could be the end of the great George Foreman saga.
Riddick, what is George's best chance for a knockout here? What should he be throwing?
George should be trying to set Tommy up with a left hook and perhaps a right uppercut. Other than that, he's not going to knock Tommy out.
Left hook to the body, right uppercut, up and under?
Pretty much, just like he just tried to.
Foreman snaps Morrison's head back with a left. A very tired Tommy Morrison trying to stay away in round number 12. George Foreman has been hinting for months that this would be his last fight. If in fact Tommy Morrison emerges from this 12th round and gains the decision, as we suspect might be the case, then it's hard to imagine where George could go. The career that has seen so many ups and downs, so many incredible stops along the way, would finally be over 25 years after this man was first introduced as a hero to the American public in Mexico City in 1968. And now an anxious crowd rises to its feet with less than 2 minutes to go to see if Big George can pull off yet another amazing comeback.
What George has been doing wrong all night is following Tommy instead of cutting the ring off.
Foreman fans booing Morrison as he leans against Foreman and then walks away. Tommy going back to the jab, using the boxing that has carried him through the evening.
See, George continues to follow Tommy instead of cutting the ring off and putting his combinations together. I think if he did that a bit more, he would get Tommy in a lot more trouble.
So the drama is set. You know the story. 1 minute to go in round 12. Is it 1 minute to go in the career of former champion George Foreman, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time? Let's watch. Mills Lane calls time with 35 seconds to go in the fight. Because of loose tape on Foreman's right glove, the obvious implication, Morrison gets a breather at the time when he might most have needed it. An upset Foreman corner steps up to the task of rewrapping the glove, and that might have been the final lucky break for Tommy Morrison, Riddick.
I would have to agree with you, Jim.
Well, Tommy Morrison has made his own break, Jim. This fight was really about whether he can fight, whether he is a world-class fighter, and I think everybody will accept him as that when the decision is announced.
Even though he's done it against a 44-year-old man?
Well, there'll always be a caveat, but coming into this fight, that was what everybody was wondering. He's done it. He has to get credit for it.
A lot of people thought Alex Stewart would get the decision over Foreman here a little more than a year ago. It appears that Tommy Morrison has done his job.
Tommy Morrison fought a disciplined, tactical fight. Nobody thought he could do that. He took some of George's best shots. Nobody thought he could do that. You just have to give him all the credit in the world for executing a game plan.
And we go back to the theme with which we began the evening. Last November, Riddick Bowe entered this ring surrounded by lots of questions and answered each one as the fight progressed. Riddick, it appears that Tommy has done pretty much the same thing tonight. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. We can't take anything away from Tommy. Tommy fought a superb fight. You know, he was just better than George tonight.
You said before the fight that you thought he had to treat it as a sparring session and tried to stay relaxed. Do you think he was able to do that?
Yes, I think he did that throughout the fight, and it worked for him.
Were you surprised that George was able to land the number of solid blows that he did without putting Tommy Morrison down?
Well, again, you got to keep in mind George Foreman is 44 now, and he's not as strong as he used to be. And again, you know, Tommy looked like he was in great shape, and so perhaps Tommy takes a better punch now than he did, you know, a couple of months ago.
Harold Letterman, how'd you score the fight?
Jim, 8-3, 1 even, 116, 111, Tommy Morrison. I mean, I thought the guy won it on movement, beautiful game plan. I call it ring generalship. I mean, he got in his shots, he went to his right, he went to his left, doubled up on a jab, movement and speed. He just kept George Foreman off balance for 12 rounds. I only gave Big George 3 rounds. I think Morrison wins by 5 points.
Harold, we know that scoring is a subjective art at best. You've been watching Vegas judges for years. Can you imagine a scenario under which 2 of these judges would see George as the winner?
No, Jim. I think that Tommy absolutely deserves this decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you the winner of this bout will be the WBO World Heavyweight Champion. We go to the scorecards. Dalby Shirley and Patricia Jarman both score the bout 117 to 110. Jerry Roth scores the bout 118 to 109 for the winner and new champion, Tommy the Duke Morrison. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Big